Hello and welcome to another bright edition of Today with John and Helen Live. We are on Plus TV Africa. And as you know, the welfare of every member of the family is a major concern. So I ask, how have you been? What strategies have you deployed to stay strong, happy and positive, even against all odds?
Yes, against all odds. You can see that again, Helen. Every new day seems to present a different challenge. Believe it or not, there is hunger and anger plus desperation in the land. But we are comforted by the adage, when there is life, there is hope. On that note, I say, welcome to the program.
And today we host three guests who will inspire, enlighten, motivate, and entertain us. Yes, three of the very best. Charles Emmanuel will set the ball rolling with the conversation, social media as a tool for national orientation. And we are sure, because we sure need this conversation at this time, that the nation and the populace are grappling, with continued economic hardship and so many others. Now, how do we ignite the sense of true nationalism? We hope that we'll be able to get the answer to that question when Emmanuel joins us.
The second guest takes us into the world of classical music with a focus on how the youth can be used as revival agents. Ayo Jafojo, CEO, Musical Society of Nigeria, yes, MUSON, will be on hand to look at what MUSON is doing in that direction.
A sister, a friend, a colleague, and a gender advocate, Funke Treasure, takes the stage as our final guest today to discuss menstrual health management on the period conversation. Believe me, there is something for every single member of the family and everyone, so stay with us while we make history yet again on today's package.
While we make history yet again, indeed. Now, more than ever, your health and staying fit must also be a priority, and that's why we have invited again Dolly Phillips, our in-house Keep Fit instructor, to take us through another interesting session in the gym. I am John Senaya.
Again, and I'm Helen Odele. You're welcome to an amazing, life-changing conversation. We shall take our very first break right about now, but don't worry, we'll be back before you know it. Please stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Some call it national orientation, others say it is a reorientation. Whatever it is, these hard times require an intentional program that will get Nigerians in the right frame of mind and up and going, John.
Yes, of course. And our first guest, Charles Emmanuel, is a multi-skilled business leader working at the intersection of management consulting, marketing communications, and technology innovation. He is founder of Whiteboard, a restless visionary with winning records of transforming businesses, governments, and society. Charles Emmanuel is currently leading the African expansion of the PIF Borderless Gifting, APP. Join us to welcome good-looking young man, Charles Emmanuel, founder of Whiteboard PCGA. Is social media a more effective tool for national orientation? Charles, let me throw you under that bus.
Welcome to the program, Charles.
Thank you, John.
Normally John and I would have started this show like on a banter. We have a few national issues, high points within the week that we talk about. I'd like for you to be a part of that today before we start on why we are here proper.
Absolutely.
So talk to us. What are the two key things in the last 1 week that you think, are worth re-echoing on this show today?
Okay, so very, very obviously, one is the exchange rate issue, right? And which is definitely, leading to the a worsening of, what we have with inflation in the country at the moment. So those two
gentleman chose to talk about money first.
Of course.
Oh,
of
yeah.
course.
So
Money answer at all things is at the bottom or where the forefront of every other thing.
I think that's what Nigerians across the board are even definitely interested in talking about at the moment. So the exchange rate situation, it keeps getting worse, and that's of course affecting the inflation the prices of goods across the board. Consumer disposable income is declining on a daily basis. Families, I mean, we're in such a crazy time. I think that this is like the highest inflation ever in Nigeria's history, and it's happening in you and I's lifetime.
Yeah, you just touched on each. You just scratched an itch on him, so he's pouring it all out.
Okay, so thank you for helping us deal with that. Now, we're talking about social media as a tool for national
You won't
orientation.
ask me anything about.
Okay, John. Okay.
Yeah, ask me too.
All right, now, John.
I'm quite concerned about
So
the level of power outage in town. I didn't sleep.
Oh yeah, that
I did
too.
not
But
sleep.
we had been warned like 2 weeks ago that the grid, it's
The
down.
grid
The
will
grid is
go-
down again.
Yeah,
All over the country. Yeah.
It's I don't want to use the word, but this is really bad.
Yeah.
really, really
I
bad.
didn't sleep all night. See, man, look at my eyes.
Really bad.
You don't know yet. They tell us that we really haven't started. But I don't want to believe that. Oh my God, I don't want to believe that.
Okay, so let's go.
All right. So national orientation. From the premise, where you started, where we are as a people, the hardship, the economy, Naira, and all of it. National orientation. Let's see how we can marry these two.
Yes, so certainly we have a government, right? And we have institutions that are responsible for all our monetary policies, doing all the work that has to be done to ensure that we have a working nation financially, right? At the end of the day, we're going to trust that they're doing all the work that they have to do. But how are the people receiving all of that work that they're doing? And how are they communicating, the ongoing changes to the people? Yeah. So that's where national orientation comes in. And
so
that's
it's
where
like working on our mindsets.
Exactly. And that's where social media comes in. So social media is a tool, really, right? It's technology, right? And it's progress that we should embrace. Decades ago, maybe 2 decades ago and backwards, we didn't have social media, right? And now we do. So all of the things that we're able to accomplish with social media today would have taken a lot more resources being manpower, time, money, and all of those to accomplish. Right? So the social media has sort of created that level playing field, makes everything easy, right? And the question is, how is the government and these agencies that are responsible for managing the country's affairs, as far as our economic policies and everything are concerned, how are they going to leverage social media to educate the people on what's going on? Because
that would be the question, because now you've made it sound so easy. That's so easy. For some of us, all this thing is still like magic to us, Okay, let me ask you. Let's know from you.
Okay.
What role do you think influencers, like they call them, and maybe online personalities? Everybody's an online. I'm an online personality too. I have my community and all. So, what role do they play in shaping public opinion and maybe promoting positive national values through the social media?
Yeah, they play a very, very critical role, to answer your question directly, because throughout human history, it's been that way, right? The population, the mass, the public, to put it that way, right? They look up to, they have people that they look up to in
like
society.
Community leaders.
Exactly. So once you come to the limelight, right, and you're known for something significant, people inadvertently, and subconsciously start to look up to you, right, in that area. So whatever you tell them, whatever information you put out, even though they are educated and they would still greet it with some level of criticism, like they would critique it to an extent to be sure that what you're saying
maybe
is correct. Skepticism, I think that's right. So even though they would greet it with some level of skepticism, at the end of the day, you're influencing them, whether they like it or not. right? And they're going to take what you're saying and work with it, right? So that's the role that influencers play.
Exactly.
And I think that now more than ever, it's very important for influencers to recognize that. And so everything, the atmosphere is polarized with what is going on, with the whole, again, going back to the exchange rate situation and all of those, right? So everybody's worried. Everybody's, complaining. Yesterday I read on the news that somewhere in the South, there's a protest that has just, broken out because the youth, people are angry, people are tired and all of those, right? So influencers, I feel like this is the time that they can channel all of the influence that they've built over time to purpose, right? Right? To calm the people down, to, sort of still help to reenact their trust in the government, to say, let's just give them some time. Let's trust that.
Are you joining that?
You asked him a question, so he's giving you answers.
Yes.
So how influencers can?
Because I know some people are telling us to give them time.
Yeah.
But hey, do I have that much time?
At the end of the day, I don't even think it's a conversation we want to go into.
We don't want to go there.
At the end of the day, we can only just trust. Like I said earlier, we can only just trust that they're doing their work, and just keep hoping that one day they will get it right. But before that time comes, do we now set the nation on fire? Right, and that's where the influencers come in to just calm everybody
to be
down.
honest, Nigerians are awesome people, very patient, very, very patient, and believing people. So you started by saying government is doing A, B, C, D. And national orientation is about letting the people believe this A, B, C, D that government is in place to do. So in what ways can government agencies and institutions leverage social media to disseminate messages of national importance and civic responsibility? In the past, we've got several agencies. We had the Y, we had
MAMSA.
Right now we have the NAO.
National Orientation Agency.
Various agencies. What are they doing, and how can they,
use social
bridge this
media.
gap?
Yes. So thank you for the question. I think that it's, again, with all that is going on at the moment, these agencies that you've mentioned, they need to recognize the critical role that they play, right? They all need to work hand in hand. And, using the National Orientation Agency that you mentioned as a case study, for instance, they have the sole responsibility to, engage the public on all of the government's programs and, activities and all of those, right? And I feel like it's time for them to, sort of look at everything that's happening
And step up.
And say, how do we step up and how do we leverage social media? And to be a little more, to respond to your question a little more directly, is look at the social media platforms that exist, right? And say, what information are we trying to pass, and what social media platform has the most important audience for that information. So let me just give a little bit of nuance to that. So earlier on, you asked me about the role that I think that influencers play at the moment in our society. I think that the way our society works is, whether we like it or not, there's that, social economic, class thing. And then there's also the Western culture, right? I think that the more you become successful in our society, the more people look up to you, right? Especially if there's like a clear track record for how you got to where you are, right? Everybody can tell that, okay, you did this business, you started that, and that's how you grew, right? Now, once you become successful, even though you're not on social media making skits and pushing them out every day and brands are working with you, once you're successful, you automatically, to an extent, become a thought leader. People look up to you, right, in that area that you become successful. So say that I have become very successful in real estate, for instance. I've built like the most talked about project in Lagos at the moment. People are going to be looking up to me in the area of real estate, right? Especially people who are maybe aspiring to become real estate people and whatnot, right? And the government is making a new policy, for instance, that affects the real estate industry, right? One way that the National Orientation Agency, for instance, can come in is think through and say where the audience that consume that has so the social media platform mostly has people that are either aspiring to become real estate business people or work in real estate, like has the professionals and whatnot. So at the moment it's primarily LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn would be like the best social media platform for them to use to disseminate their information. Now, it doesn't mean that the other social media platforms like Twitter and Instagram are not important, but LinkedIn would be best suited for that goal or purpose. So that's one way that they can leverage social media, is to find the perfect audience, right? The right platform that has the audience, the perfect audience that they want to send their information to, right? And then another thing is to, even beyond putting out information on that is sensitizing or educating the public on certain areas and all of those, it's to also like build that camaraderie, build that relationship with the people, right? If there's no relationship, if there's no deliberate attempt to build a community, right? To say we're all one, we're all going through the struggle together, sometimes completely outside of, whatever new policy that the government has made, just putting out information to sort of identify with the people and say we are all one. If they don't do that, and then they come up all of a sudden because there's a new policy to start to talk, to use that your word again, there's a certain level of skepticism that the public would greet.
And a disconnect. A very negative one too.
Right? There's a certain level of skepticism that they would greet that attempt or that effort with. Right? So the public sector has a lot of work to do in building this working relationship, right, with the citizenry, with the public, right? And they can do it by just creating that ongoing engagement with everyone.
This is quite
media.
interesting because it's beginning to look like science to me, social media. Because in the past, we used to see social media as, just a way by which you can send messages from one person to the other. But from the way you've described this, it has to be a lot more intentional, strategic, and all of that. Okay, now let's even look at what kind of strategies, can be implemented to counter, the spread of misinformation, for instance, and maybe divisive narratives on social media platforms, particularly regarding national issues.
Yes. So, how does misinformation start? There's probably a whole science to it. Somebody somewhere has, in some university in the world, has probably done some research on it. But I think I would just share what I think are the basics, right? How does misinformation happen? Misinformation happens when someone is saying the wrong thing, right? There's obviously the fact, what has in fact happened, right? And then there's someone somewhere who's pushing out information that is not factual, that is not what has happened. There's that. And then there's
fake news.
Fake news, okay. And then there's someone somewhere who, yes, the right information has been pushed out, but they're probably down the grassroots, right? And they don't have access to the correct information, right? So it's easy, they're gullible, and it's easy for them to be misled, right? Because they don't have access to the right information. So where can the government start? It's by first of all, ensuring that the right news is put out there. And then secondly, ensuring that the platform that puts out the right news is big enough, is, laudable enough,
and credible.
Has enough, thank you, that's the word, has enough authority, is credible enough that over time the people build trust, right? They subconsciously develop trust, in those platforms, right? That pass the right information, so that it gets to the point where whenever anybody hears anything anywhere, they would first of all want to go to those platforms that they trust to say, has it been put on this platform? If it's not there, then it's very likely that it's not true, right? And then after that has been done, the government, additional work that they can do is maybe run a campaign on it, right?
Okay.
I'm sure there are like pockets of such campaigns happening across the country at the moment, right? Run a campaign. So there's this, it's not a principle per se, but it's like a popular thing in the media space that whatever information is loudest over time tends to become the most believable information.
Of course.
Right? So if everybody just goes out there and starts to say Charles is mad, right? That guy has run mad. He's very, very mad. And all the big platforms you can think of on Nigerian social media and even on TV, they're pushing that narrative and they're driving it. They're putting a lot of money behind it, and all of this. Before you know it, people would start believing it. And Charles is not in fact.
Sometimes Charles himself will begin to think he's mad.
Even Charles himself.
Unfortunately.
And I would start to ask myself, wait, am I
Are you okay? Wow.
So so the right information first has to be passed, and then it has to be passed from a very credible platform, and then it has to be
verified
sustainably. Then it has to be very loud, right? So the government has to use the biggest platforms, and they have to sustainably over time continue to push out that information.
Okay, I read somewhere where they said whatever part of the world, once you see a Nigerian, you know that person is Nigerian, male, female. There's something about us, and it has to do with our background, who we are, our culture, our heritage and all that. So how can social media be used to highlight and celebrate the cultural diversity and the heritage of a nation while fostering inclusivity and tolerance? At a time like this, we need more of this.
Yes.
Don't you think so?
Absolutely. And I really, really like that you raised that. Again, throughout Nigeria's history, I think that we've always had the things that have always brought us together, right? Sports being one of them, and then our culture, like you just rightly raised, is another. So how can we use social media to spotlight our culture
and music?
Yeah. Music is part of our culture. Actually.
Okay.
Music is part of
our music is so loud.
Music and dance, part of our culture.
Yeah. And at the moment, you see what's going on with Afrobeat, for instance. Where everywhere, when topping the charts globally and whatnot, everybody. In all of these international music scenes, they want to come and collaborate with our stars, and we're doing good. So how can social media be used for that? It's, again, by always leveraging brands, right? Personal brands, corporate brands, and platform brands, right? So the government, again, for instance, if the government is thinking that, okay, we might not be doing so well economically, so the people are pretty frustrated, how can we create pockets of joy? I'll just put it that way, right? How can we find the sort of things that will bring the people together again, make them happy even amidst their sorrows and whatnot? If they're thinking that way, then they'll probably be thinking, so can we run like a national campaign, So that campaign, Nigeria, good people, great nation. When that campaign ran, there was this sense of patriotism, sense of ownership, sense of pride that it gave us all, right? That I'm a Nigerian. I'm proud to be a Nigerian. So the government can look into those things. Those sort of they can make those sort of attempts, right? Organize. Those sort of campaigns that push our culture forward, and our culture being the Nigerian culture, so not tribal, not ethnic, but across the board, right? So the reason I keep saying the government is because I think that on our end, as the public, we're already doing a lot, right? I just mentioned Afrobeat a while ago. Our top artists like Burna Boy, Davido, all of these guys, Wizkid, Tiwa Savage, they're already doing a lot, right? And the gospel music brands too, Messi, Chinwo, Nathaniel Bassey, Dunsin Oyekon. These guys go around the world, taking the Nigerian, music to, you know.
we have content.
Oh yeah, a lot of content, taking, you know, our Nigerian content to all of these places. And globally, they love it, right? They love to receive what we have to give and all. So we are already pushing the Nigerian culture to the other parts of the world. And even here in the country, we're already doing that. On Twitter, I don't know if you guys saw what happened after after we won the semi-finals, you know, after we won South Africa, you know. It was very funny, right? What happened on Twitter. You know, so if you're Nigeria, if you are Nigerian in that moment, you'd have felt very proud, right? You know, you'd have seen how every single Nigerian, how we were all defending, you know, our country, our national heritage, our name, our national
For a moment,
brand.
we all loved Nigeria.
We all loved Nigeria, you know,
like that.
and all of this. No, and even when we lost to Ivory Coast in the finals, we still didn't back down.
Yeah, we
right?
just
Because
were quiet.
you know, no, not really. Nigerians are actually fighting.
They came with all kinds of excuses, reasons why. You know.
You know, so the Ghanaians were trying to do, you know, so you know how far Nigeria. You guys are laughing at us a while back.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense now. You know, the way you've explained it. But that really is nationalism.
Oh yeah,
you know,
it's what it is. And you see, even that attitude, that spirit, that Nigerian spirit, is part of the culture.
And we need to sustain it.
Oh yeah, we need to sustain it. And so that's why I said that I think that on our end, the people are already doing a lot, right? Let's give us our credit, right? We're already doing a lot to push our national brand, to represent Nigeria, to defend our country. You know, we just need for the government to sort of still encourage us a little bit, you know, to
that would be like his final.
I'm told we have 1 minute. You know, and I want to kind of wrap up in this manner. We can't do all of this blindfolded, so to speak, right? There will be some science between having feelers. How do we monitor what's going on? How do we to be able to manage it? Can you just for 30 seconds? You know, just
how do we manage what's going on?
Yeah, how do we manage the social media to know that it's working for us?
Oh yes, so that's where social listening comes in, right? So that's where social listening comes in. Again, going back to the government, right, and these agencies that are responsible for educating, enlightening the public, right? So they have to do social listening to understand the pain points of the people. What are the people talking about? What's going on Twitter? Someone in these agencies has to be monitoring, has to be looking at the Twitter trends, right? And asking themselves what's going on and how can we bring hope? How can we bring light? There have been a lot of times in this country where, you know, some, you know, really, really deep things have happened. You hear that, you know, an entire, like a bus, all the passengers in a bus, like an 18-seater bus, were kidnapped, you know. And the populace, everybody's waiting to at least hear from. Is there an agency that is supposed to be responsible for, like the Ministry of Transportation?
So the final word is that government should take charge.
Absolutely, they should be on top of it. They should, you know, adequately leverage social media to stay in touch with the people and educate the people and bring hope. And stand up to the occasion, you know, when need be.
Nothing more to add, Charles.
Okay, nothing more to add, except that the social media is not an all-comers thing. We have not even looked at the aspect of whether the government agencies are equipped or capable of doing this.
We'll have to get Charles. We'll have to get Charles Emmanuel.
I know. So thank you, Charles. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us today.
Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us
today.
Thank you.
I thank you for having me. Great conversation.
All right. If we must continue to have a country, then we must think country first at all times.
Absolutely.
That's what you have said. So coming up next after the break, a must-watch conversation with Ayo Jafojo, the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, Musical Society of Nigeria, MUSON. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you place classical music? Together with our next guest, we shall attempt at reviving the culture of classical music, this time through the youth. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you for being there.